Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So the new trial is up on the preview server, the defense of the Moondancer. Now the master version is going to require 85,000 item level on private, 90 on public, but who's doing public anyway? The advanced version, 50,000 on private, 55,000 on public, and the normal version, 25,000 on private, 30,000 on public. The normal version will be going in the random trial queue, so you'll expect to see it there. Hopefully they get the tuning right on that. But let's cover all the mechanics and what you need to know in order to beat this trial nice and smoothly. So I've written up a document which you can read through and get the basics of the mechanics. There'll be a link in the video description below. But in this video we're going to run through that and give some extra insights and visuals on what those mechanics really mean. So first things first, phase 1. You're just clearing mobs. There is really nothing fancy here. You group up and you get teleported over here and you just gotta clear a few waves of these enemies. They pop in like these fancy portals and then you just kill them. I generally go with one tank closer to the entrance where you entered and one tank a bit further away, and you can just run around using a ring with the charging bull bonus. Very useful throughout the entirety of this trial. However, keep in mind of this visuals here under the minimap. This is to denote how much air you have remaining. When you progress further on, you also get to see the level of the air bleeders. Now this air remaining is basically a timer. If this runs out, you pretty much fail the trial and need to go and reset. So just kill these enemies as quickly as possible, and you need to basically stop the bleeders from draining the air ASAP. So to do this, we move on to phase 2. You finished killing your waves of enemies up here and you hop down the stairs to the lower deck. You enter in and you need to fight more adds, but now lieutenants as well. There's 3 of them. These lieutenants each have unique powers. There are 6 in total, but you're initially only going to face 3 of them here. They do have a unique mechanic where some of their abilities will give you Starfire Burn, causing you to take increased damage and losing incoming healing. Meaning you kind of want to play these mechanics properly to not reduce your effectiveness throughout the trial. So the way we do it is one tank takes 2 of the lieutenants while the other team goes and beats up the other lieutenant. You can read way down the bottom here after all the lieutenants our current strategy. We split into 2 groups with the artifact calls, so one group goes on the first lieutenant while the second group saves their artifact and like mount power and daily power for the second lieutenant. And one tank needs to take threat on the first lieutenant while the second takes the back 2. So once the first is dead, you switch to the next one, and the tanks need to like separate them so that you don't have everything together and DPS then can't target properly. Now again, each of these lieutenants are different in their abilities. The one I hate the most is the Lieutenant Agent with its lightning bomb. It places these purple areas on the ground, and if they appear under your feet, they like daze you and stun you within the area. You can't move out until a bit of time has passed, so you could end up dying in it. Other than that, their regular attacks aren't too threatening. The Lieutenant Aura is the guy right here. You see with his big blue zone, that blue area, while within it you take damage over time, but you also deal extra damage against him, or you say you deal normal damage against him. If you're not within the blue area, you deal a lot less damage. So it incentivizes you to move close next to him. You will take damage, so healer will want to heal you through it, but just do that during your burst when you're getting your encounters off and then move away again. The Lieutenant Sniper, you need to pay particular attention to him as the tank. This wing effect will appear when he's going to snipe you. You can see he puts the wing effect just up here, and I know I need to find some cover. Hide behind here, and then he snipes at me and I don't take any damage because I'm behind cover. He does 2 snipes back to back. You can see we go find cover again, and there we go, we don't get hit. And that's how you avoid it. As the tank, you could survive that by just face tanking it, but you're not going to be able to face tank 2 back to back. Best to just learn the mechanics and position correctly. Now we have the Lieutenant Striker. He's the guy with a sword and a shield. He has one particular nasty attack. He's gonna like lunge at you there. We can see that in this clip. So I'm fighting the Striker and I'll pause it at the exact moment. You see here, he's holding up his sword and he's like glowing blue a little bit. Here he's gonna lunge at me and you can see he stuns me. You can see my powers are all locked. I can't move, nothing. And then he starts thwacking the ground. That's his power combo. That thwacking the ground is like an area of effect and can just kill everybody who's close to him. And that daze is like nearly freaking 10 seconds long. So to avoid that, you need to block that lunge attack when he comes at you. You can see we get him here again. We move away. DPS are trying to focus on the other lieutenant, so I just need to get this guy out of there. But here, he's doing it again. He's holding up the sword, and he's going to lunge at me and daze me. We didn't, again, block it. I wasn't paying attention, and that's why we got disabled right here. Other than that, you have the doctor who's just going to heal the guys who are nearby. You need to focus the doctor because especially if there's another lieutenant nearby, he's going to heal them for like 15 million or more every 6 seconds. The saboteur is particularly annoying. He's going to put like traps down and barrels. He's going to like blow up the barrels, which deal a lot of damage to you. And they also give you like one of these debuffs, the Starfire Burn. You will see when the barrels do get triggered, they start glowing red like in Master Temple of the Spider. And they get like a timer above them. And when that timer expires, they're going to explode. There's nothing you can do about it. Just make sure you move away from them. Don't be near all those exploding barrels. They'll kill you. So again, with all those lieutenants, the strategy in phase 2 right here is to split the artifact call into 2 groups. One group goes the artifact call on the first lieutenant, while the second group saves their burst for the next lieutenant. You will use encounters on that first lieutenant. You'll just save your mounts, dailies, and artifacts. Again, the tanks are splitting. One is going to the first lieutenant, the other is taking the other 2. Then once the first lieutenant is dead, you switch. That tank who was on the other one takes one of the lieutenants, splits it off, and you go arties with the second group on that. Once all lieutenants are dead and you clear remaining enemies, you move on to the next phase. Just keep in mind, all of that has to be done ASAP, so you're not losing too much air, which is equivalent to your time. So you move on to the third phase, which is very simple. Just kill enemies. You're in a room at the front part of this ship here with these 2 windows, and just enemies are spawning in, teleporting in, and you're just killing them. Then you go to the fourth phase. So you've killed all those enemies and you now move to the top of the ship. Here you will want to split into like 2 groups. So tank, healer, 3 DPS. I'm going into the middle here with my group and we're clearing the enemies. The objective right now is to destroy the air bleeders, which you will now see under the minimap, those red bars. They're at 100%, you need to deplete them. The way to destroy them is to have people within that area. You can see it shines like blue. It's, I think, more green when nobody's within it. But when you have one person in it, you'll decrease it by 1% every tick. If you have 2 people in it, you'll decrease it by 2% per tick. And if you have 3 people in it, you'll decrease it by 7% per tick. So make sure you have 3 people within there. At this front of the ship, you're going to have 2 lieutenants. On the far side of the ship, that's the back, you just have 1 lieutenant. And they won't be the lieutenants you've already seen. They will be 3 different ones. So new mechanics. So it will be the ones you didn't face down below. Here we're facing the aura guy and the sniper guy. Again, for now, my team is getting rid of the middle air bleeder, while the other team is getting the one at the back of the ship. So now we've gotten rid of our air bleeder. We do have lots of time, but if you don't have much time, you'll want to already move to the front of the ship there and start depleting that air bleeder. We have some time, so we're just clearing enemies and going artifacts and trying to get rid of the doctor, since he's just healing everybody. Once we do get rid of the doctor, we then go head up to the bleeder and start depleting that one. need to stand within it. You see it's green, and once you're within it, it turns blue. But again, you can read through our strategy here. We split into 2 groups. One goes middle and clears the enemies and destroys the bleeder. Once the mobs are cleared, the tank can go and pull the 2 lieutenants from the front of the ship. If you've got the sniper there, make sure you play near the stairs like you may have seen me do. And the other group goes to the back of the ship and fights the single lieutenant there and destroys the air bleeder. Once they're done, they can go and help the other group. The main objective is to first destroy the air bleeders. Even if you don't have enough time or enough damage to kill the lieutenants, make sure you're just getting rid of the air bleeders. You do not want to run out of air. If you run out of air, you're taking a ton of damage over time and there's no way to stop it. You basically can't get air back. However, you need to kill the lieutenants within enough time after you've destroyed the last air bleeder, because otherwise it will be a wipe. There's just a timer in there in place so you don't abuse it to remove your skulls. And then you're on to the final phase. You get a cutscene, you need to do a little bit of parkour jumping over to the enemy ship. Don't fall off, and otherwise you do have a bit of a timer here. You can't wait forever here either. If you wait too long, you all die. So here you fight Captain Zorla. He'd be the main boss here. There's a bit of a bug right now with the weapons dropping when you kill the boss and don't actually complete the trial, but I'm sure that will get fixed. So the main thing of this boss is he has hit point thresholds, and at every 20% hit point threshold, he'll spawn in 1 or 2 lieutenants until you've killed all 6. However, he has a unique mechanic of a tank buster, which tanks need to be very aware of. So with regards to his hit point phasing, at 80% he spawns 1 or 2 lieutenants, 60% 1 or 2 lieutenants, at 50% he comes immune for a period of time. Mobs will appear and cannons will bombard the arena. So you just have red areas you need to move out of or you go flying. At 40%, he spawns 1 or 2 lieutenants. At 20%, he does the same. And at 15%, he begins the damage over time, which gradually increases until you're all dead or you win. So you're ultimately going to have to fight all 6 of the lieutenants again. But you can moderate how many you're fighting at once based on his hit points. Don't overphase him. Generally recommend don't go artifacts on him. Get him to 80%, then you go artifacts on the lieutenants that spawn. Get him to 60%. Do the same. Now, with the tank buster, you can very easily end up with the tank being just dead, regardless if they did not have any skulls, by the way it works. You can read through this here, but ultimately, it has a tell. You need to watch out for when the boss raises up his sword. So when you run the intro quest, you see that very easily here. He raises a sword and attacks you. Now what you can do is when this happens, so you'll see it here again, he raises up his sword, he's going to do the tank buster, we switch. So the other tank takes the threat and then he takes the big hit from the tank buster. There you go. There is some animation issues with them right now, but you do not have to switch like this. You can take the tank buster yourself, but you have to block that tail attack, that lunge attack initially where he swings at you. Again, he holds up the sword and then goes and lunges at you and does an attack. Here again, he had animation issues. And then he does the tank buster, which we are going to tank here because it did not daze me. If you get hit by that lunge attack, you get dazed and you have to then switch or you die, like in Zarya. So what we do here is actually block the daze attack, take the tank buster and switch tank afterwards. That way you can see I have the debuff up there, which is this Astral Blade wound. And if I take another hit from his Astral Blade, his tank buster, I could end up permanently dead. The way this happens is if I have 1 stack already, you see that there, and I'm going to take another tank buster. But if this does more damage than I can survive, I'm permanently dead. I had no skulls. That is because I had that debuff. I did not have my daily power, I did not have enough mitigation, and we died and were permanently dead. But if you have enough mitigation, you can survive it on 1 stack. However, if you have 2 stacks, you will die. This tank buster is an area cone effect, so you need to also position yourself so you're not going to kill everybody. I moved too close here, ended up getting a second stack of the debuff. Fortunately, I didn't get actually hit by the tank buster, but this means I'm on 2 stacks, and if I take a tank buster now, I'm going to be dead regardless of how much mitigation I have. The hit only did like 400k damage to me, but I'm still permanently dead because I had 2 stacks. We can see we're now on 3. So again, what you need to do with this is just switch after you take the tank buster, or switch after the other tank gets stunned. You won't get stunned again if you block this lunge attack. He lunges at you, he won't stun you if you block it. If you're stunned, you'll ultimately die to the tank buster if you don't switch. The way we were doing it is we were switching after the tank buster. That debuff lasts about 40 seconds. It lasts too long for it to expire before you would take the next tank buster. So you need to switch so that the other tank takes the next tank buster, and then you can just keep switching like that. So ultimately, the current strategy we use is to save artifacts for the lieutenants. Never really use them on the boss until the very end. I explained already what you do with the tanks and the switching, but when you get the boss to 20% hit points, you need to make sure to stop damage on the boss and just clear the remaining mobs and the lieutenants. Wait until you have artifacts ready, chip the boss to 15%, and then go full burst, and that should be GG. Just be aware you can only finish when the captain is dead and all the lieutenants, so you can't just burn the boss down and everything will disappear. It won't. You'll end up with a huge damage over time while trying to kill enemies. But otherwise, good luck and have fun. I will say, in terms of a trial, it is far easier than we have seen, and it's a bit chaotic with all the ads. Not that much mechanic complexity towards it. I'm sure less serious players will be happy with this. It won't be as much of a challenge. You'll be able to get your top tier loot. Not that there is exactly the best stuff here, and maybe that could be the reason because of the balancing. There is again an advanced version of this which you can jump in, get legendary weapons, legendary shirt and pants, the mythic set, and some new rings. Some decent stuff there, and that's pretty good. It's accessible to 50,000 item level. You just will have to know some mechanics to get through it smoothly as well. So highly recommend learning them before going with random groups where they would expect you to know what you're doing. Ultimately, hopefully this has been somewhat insightful and helped some of you out there. There is not a lot of time left before it gets removed again from the previous server where you won't be able to test it anymore. You only have like 12 hours. I think they extended it to 16. But yeah, not long at all. Potentially it'll be released again for testing on the previous server next week. Depends how things go here. There are a few bugs, particularly with the achievements and non-animating. But ultimately, it's a bit of fun. It's new, otherwise not very melee friendly, I can say that. But with regards to its difficulty, melee damage dealers will have a bit more struggle, but it's still very achievable compared to, let's say, Xemnid's Reliquary. So we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.